All right, painting class. This is the introduction to acrylic paints, and uh, just setup is basically what this is setup, how to set up. One, though I don't really thoroughly enjoy having a bunch of paint in stacks on my sink, this is what I suggest. This is why I like the Gerber stuff that I get in, that you create your own palette. And you get whatever colors you're using, you get them together, you tape along the side, and you tape it down so it's side by side. So you can take this off, and then you can put it back on when you're done so that your paint doesn't dry out. You don't want it too snug, or it's going to be hard to get that cap back on, like kind of is right now. But these Gerber stuff, if you got any more at home, got an aunt, uncle, I always want them because they're great. This creates your palette that you can have. If you want stuff and something in there to cushion it, newspaper is also a great way to cushion it so that you have all your colors. You can put tape on the top of it or on it and write your name and not stack them all over around my sink. Find a good spot for them so that you don't have to keep going. If there's a little bit of color, it will taint color. This is acrylic. Okay, so you can see here this was once white, but just took a little bit of red, attached to something, and now we have pink. Also, you do not want the paint fresh out of the container. You want to liquefy it some. This is a little runny the way that it is, but it's still usable. I'd rather have it a little bit runny than too thick. Makes it hard to paint with, and you waste the material. I don't want you to waste the material. You can see here, me just rubbing it, you got paint, and you can see the paint on the material. Okay, you want to add water. You want to thin it down because it says heavy bodied. That means it's thick. Okay, so you want to take some of this, and you always want your brushes, especially if you're starting off. You're going to want probably wide brushes to paint in wide areas first, and then you get the smaller brushes after it's dried to fine tune everything. First thing you want is you want to paint in the areas. You don't want to go in and try to paint in detail. You want the general areas covered and go from there. So you can see here I got this blue. It's like a cerulean. This is cobalt blue here, like it was in Ventureland. And it's so thick, you see it doesn't pour out. You know, you see that it doesn't pour out. So normally you got to kind of shake a little bit, and you need a dab. You don't need to fill the container up all the way, because then the paint dries out eventually, and it's a waste of paint. I don't like to waste paint. I don't like to waste anything. You can see here that it is still wet. This dab in here is about what you need. Okay. You can see it's not too thick. And then you can add water. You should always have a water cup too. And you want to add some water, not in abundance. And then you can get a stirring stick, which is basically a brush that has died. And we resurrected it with a new label, a stirring stick. And you can stir it in. You can also use a palette knife if you can find a palette knife. But a stirring stick, and you want to stir it until it has a nice smooth consistency. Okay. This, if you see this here, this is how your paint should be. It should, see it comes up just a little bit. See if I get closer. See, it makes that little dot right there. Just a little one and it almost disappears. That is a nice consistency for painting. And then, of course, you're going to need to clean these off like everything else. And if you take them all together prior, you're not going to have a problem, so you have your own palette. And that is what you're going to want to do. Make sure that you have water. You understand what kind of colors you're going to be using. Okay? I don't want you mixing in here unless it's a base color. You should get a plate or some kind of palette to mix colors to get those midtones that you want. You know, shadow, midtone, and highlight. You should not be mixing in here. This is just a reservoir for the color choices that you're using. You should have a palette. I have some wax palettes. There's plates you can use, or even magazines, so that you can put the color, take the color out with the palette knife, put it on to the palette, and mix it there and get the desired effect. Okay? Because if you mix here, you know, okay, I'm going to make purple, I'm going to add a little bit of red. Well, it's not the purple I want. I need a little bit more blue, so you add a little bit more blue. Well, what about white? And the next thing you know, you have this thing filled up with one color that you're not going to use a whole lot of, and the rest of it's wasted. Use your palette to get your color. And when you're using the palette to get your color, make a decent amount, and make sure you're coloring that thing. You're going to have the time to color that thing during the class period. Because acrylic is hard to get that same tone back. It can be done. It takes time, patience, and effort. 3 things that at times not everyone has. So make sure that you're using a palette and you have your reservoir, your swatch, so to speak, with this thing. That is getting started. Okay, I'm going to show another video on styles of painting and how to paint kind of with the colors that I already have here. I have a blue, I have a pink apparently, I have a black, and I'll probably get a green to go with that. So again, create your palette, put a daub of paint in there, add water, mix.